Cloud Atlas isn't about a narrative so much as it's about a theme. It's about ideas. And then it uses these 6 shorter stories interwoven between each other to discuss that theme and to show what that theme means, what the directors and the writers of this movie. And of course, this is based on a book. In 2004, Cloud Atlas, the novel, came out from David Mitchell. And so what this movie does is it attempts to highlight that theme, and in my opinion, it does it in a way that does not beat you over the head. Some people disagree with that. One of our listeners, Jessie Morris, she emailed us and wanted one of the aspects of our review to be to talk about whether or not we felt like the movie beat you over the head with its theme or whether it did it more subtly. In my opinion, I thought it was a very subtle display or movie about its themes. And just to be quick, which I've already kind of ruined the quickness of this review, the movie's not about a story. It's about the idea of connectedness. It's an idea about the love and its power and impact, its ability to connect us together, not just in the now, but in the past and in the future, and what our relationships mean as they ripple through time. And so you get to see various relationships, starting at 1849, going right through to the future, into the stars. And so it's not an easy film to talk about because I can't just give you a plot point by plot point description as though it's going to mean anything, because it's not. So let me go ahead then and open this up to you, Aaron. Did you feel like it handled its themes well, or did you think it was heavy-handed? And how did you feel about the movie?
Okay. Well, story-wise, there's 6 stories, right? 6 stories. And they're all over the map, which is a good I think there are some subtle things that lead from one story to the next, but I think they're subtle. I don't think they beat you over the head with it. There's little things like the sonnet that one person's writing will show up in the next story. And something from that story will show up in the next story. You know what I'm talking about, Justin? And there's little touches that go throughout. There's a birthmark that pops up in several different spots. I mean, there's little things that connect everything, but each story is kind of its own thing. So the only thing I didn't like about it was kind of how each scene led to a scene from a different story. So you never have a long period of time with one story. I mean, you really have to pay attention. That can be a good thing and a bad thing. I liked part of it. I liked the fact that you had to pay attention to the movie. You really couldn't get up and go to the bathroom because you're going to miss something. But I didn't like that you don't get a lot of time with one particular story. I mean, literally each scene, the very next scene is a different story. So you don't get like 3 scenes of the same timeline. Make sense?
Are the scenes that important? I mean,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think the stories are really that complicated. I think what Justin said is very accurate. I think it's more about the theme and how each story kind of interrelates with the overall theme, which is that there's different variations of love. There's different variations of conquering things. You see how the course of time, the world changes, and how really it all just ends up in one big circle. It all comes back around, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really ballsy. Honestly, it was a ballsy chance because it's really hard to do something like this, especially with the kind of money that they threw at it. I mean, it's a $100 million budget.
Well, it's $100 million movie that looks like a $200 million film.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. It really does.
But in the book actually has these 6 stories, but each story is told individually. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
They're not intermingled like they are in the movie. But in the movie, I listened to an interview with the directors, and they said that they didn't want to do it that way because they felt like all you would be getting, you would lose a lot of power, because as soon as you get the ending of one, then you got to start all over again with the slowness of another. And then it would follow like a wave motion that would just be uninteresting and would really lead people to feeling like they were watching an anthology of short movies. By intercutting them and intermixing them, what they were able to do is they were able to give you rising drama and action, but then also moments of comedy that some of these stories would not have had. Some of these stories are not funny. They are very dramatic. Some of them, though, are incredibly funny with very little drama. So by taking some of the funny moments from one, cutting it amidst the drama of another, you're able to get that kind of rising action, the fall, the comedic relief, and bring them all through together. But I also felt like I never got bored with any of them, because as soon as maybe one of the stories might have gotten to the end of what it was showing, boom, you go right to something new that's interesting. And then, but they come back. And so I always felt like I was getting this cleansing my palate constantly throughout the movie. You never get too bored with any one character or story, because it's constantly moving backward and forward. And I loved that narrative flow, and it was beautifully done. Some of these stories do intermingle. There are elements that you will see rippling throughout the other ones, but it's not a hard and heavy thing that they're just shoving up in your face and just grinding it against you, saying, look at the symbolism of this.
Yeah.
A lot of it's very subtle, and some of it you won't notice. I can't wait to see it again, if only so that I can catch some of the things that I missed the first time around.
One point about the story. The futuristic story is my favorite, the most futuristic, where it's Tom Hanks and Halle Berry, and he's basically a simple guy because the world has completely changed, and basically he's a backcountry folk, and she comes in her futuristic world, and you have to see this story to see how it plays out. That's my favorite story. But they use this goofy ass language to try to illustrate the story that was completely unnecessary. It sounded like the movie Nell. Did you guys ever see the movie Nell?
Mm-hmm. Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Hey in the wind.
Yeah, Hey in the wind. It's
God,
just
angel
it's
come.
goofy
Yeah,
for no reason.
angel.
You can emphasize your point to me without trying to, understand your backcountry English, man. It was just, you want to hear the true? I don't want to hear the true. I want to hear the truth. That part was the only part where it's my favorite story, but that really irritated me. Really irritated me. But that's neither here nor there. What did you think of the acting?
Well, unfortunately, that story also had the only bit of acting that I did not like in the whole film, and it was Hugo Weaving's character. In that particular story, he plays kind of this green devil who constantly is whispering in Tom Hanks's ear. And you find out really quickly that this guy doesn't actually exist. He's a figment of Tom Hanks's character's imagination. I hated that guy. It was so over the top. If you didn't like the language, he would really make you hate it, because I thought his usage of it was worse than any of them.
Yeah, it was.
I only kind of thought it didn't have, it kind of seemed so at odds with the rest of the film, because none of the other characters, so far as I know, had these characters from their imagination on the screen. Suddenly this one did. And so it kind of threw me off a little bit. That said, everybody else I thought did a magnificent job of playing these different characters throughout time, sometimes different genders. And I was so impressed with how everyone did their job. And for me, the finest point of acting in it was Halle Berry's character that she played during the moments of the movie that took place in Edinburgh, Scotland, where a young man goes to become like an assistant to a composer. Mm-hmm. Well, the composer's wife is this Jewish woman. And it took me a little while to realize, oh my God, that's Halle Berry, because the color of her skin, her nose, her hair, all these things have been changed through makeup. But her performance of that character, I thought was fantastic. But everybody involved, bang up job. I could not have been more impressed, except for that one character.
I agree. All the acting was stellar. I thought it was pretty cool to see each actor pop up in various roles throughout the film, like in different scenes, whatnot. The makeup was a little distracting in parts.
Yeah.
Asians do not make convincing white people. I'm sorry if that's offending someone, but it just didn't work. That really took me out of it, because you can make Halle Berry, you can paint her up. Okay, it makes sense, but you can tell a Chinese woman is playing a white woman. It just didn't work for me. And that really was distracting. But outside of that, everything worked really well. The acting was great. That's the Chinese lady or Japanese, whatever she is. I really liked her story arc, which is one of the futuristic ones. There's a couple futuristic ones. She's the one. What is it like in the near future? Is that pretty much what that one was? I'm trying to remember the timeline because it is kind of confusing. But That storyline I really liked because it was a really interesting take on how we see the future. Everybody did great. Tom Hanks, great actor, did a fantastic job playing a lot of different kind of parts. He went from an old guy to a young guy to a action hero. Never seen Tom Hanks as an action hero. It worked. I mean, I was very impressed.
Fantastic stuff. It's interesting though that you bring up Asians playing whites and whites playing Asians. A controversy kind of sprang up with the Media Action Network for Asian Americans, and they criticized the film for its portrayal of Asian characters. They felt like taking a white person and putting them in makeup to look Asian was offensive, that they should have hired Asians to play those roles. I could not disagree more, and I think that the only way you could say that is if you haven't watched the film.
Uh-huh.
It's not about a white person playing an Asian. It's about these characters and these actors performing different characters at different points in time. It would have made no sense had they hired someone completely different to play, say, the interrogator in the Sun Mi 451 storyline. You know, the person who's asking her all the questions.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That guy plays different characters all throughout the movie. It would have made no sense had they just hired someone completely different to come in and play that one role. Just as it wouldn't have made any sense to hire just some white girl to play the wife that the Asian woman plays. True, she doesn't look white, but for me, that's not the point. The point was using this actress to play that role to show that continued connectedness of people throughout time. If they'd have hired just some white girl to play it, that sense of that connectedness would have been completely gone.
That's a good point.
So that's why I have no issue with that, and I think these people who do obviously didn't see the film.
I saw the film. I'm just saying she didn't look like a white girl.
No, did not. And there were the white guys who were made to look Asian. I'm sorry, Hugh Grant, there is not makeup enough.
No.
To that, though, is the fact that they kept talking about unification. And I kind of took that as that, you know, the entire world had at some point unified to the point that the breeding amongst people just, you know, created people who looked partially Asian, partially, Anglo-Saxon. So that didn't bother me. Production quality on this film, though, what did you think? Did it look like 100 million? Did it look less? Did it look more?
It looked great. It was like several small, sweeping mini epics, really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the production throughout most of the stories is actually fairly minimal, whether you're talking about a sailing ship or Edinburgh, Scotland, or just some building an old folks' home. You know, that doesn't require a heck of a lot of money to go into it. I think a lot of that money went into the Neo Soul segment. This movie is one of the most beautiful films I have ever seen in my life. Clear, gorgeous colors. The screen was just sumptuous. I wished I'd seen it on IMAX, and I'm going to see if I can try and find it on a really big screen. This movie deserves that kind of canvas.
So what's your verdict?
Oh, God. If you're asking me if I'm going to pay $1 to $10, how much would I be willing to spend to go see this movie? It probably sounds a bit dramatic or hyperbolic on my part. I'd easily pay $20 to go see this movie again. It's the best film I've seen this year so far by a huge mile.
I think not anything revolutionary. I thought the stories were pretty simple. A lot of people are saying that they're very deep and broad. I didn't see it. I thought they were really easy to follow. They do have resolution at the end, so it's not, some people are concerned that, well, at the end you're not going to get any resolution and it's just going to be one of those, well, you just didn't get it kind of movies. No, you can get it. It's not that hard to focus on. I do think the movie's about 30 minutes too long. I was interested for most of the time, though. The editing does keep you interested because you can't frickin' turn away. I think once you see it, I'm kind of concerned what that replay value would be because, okay, now I know how it all plays out. And some of the stories were getting a little long in the tooth. I mean, you could tell if they were their own thing, it probably wouldn't hold as much of your interest. But I like the movie. I give them a lot of credit for taking chances, man, because they don't make movies like this anymore. They don't take chances like this. I don't think it worked perfectly. A lot of things they could have tightened up, but I give it 7 out of 10.